Welcome, foolish mortals, to a quick video. I was watching something from Vern from Oakhurst Studios today, and he has a great video that I'm going to tag down at the bottom. Um, that he thinks, and he admits it's a conspiracy theory, that Hasbro is sabotaging the Star Wars Black Series in favor of either returning to 5.0 or um, the vintage collection. And he has some really good points, and he makes, his thinking is not off. But I want to make a quick reply and put my 2 cents into that. So I'm not necessarily sure that they're trying to just sabotage the Black Series set. And this is where you can put on your tinfoil hats. I think they're trying to sabotage the entire Star Wars license. Because if you've looked at it over the past couple years, Hasbro either feels that they're trapped in the Star Wars license or they just don't care. It has to be one or the other. Because over the past couple years, I know that COVID had a lot to do with, not getting stuff to stores, things like that. But it's not even distribution. It's quantity and it's quality. So let's take a series I don't even really buy a lot of, and that's the Black Series. So the Black Series figures are what most Star Wars collectors are buying these days. They have these cool little packages. They're great. They have a wonderful window so you can see the figure. But it's very odd to me that they do not produce these in a number that anybody would actually probably care about. And they keep raising the price of them. They used to be $17, and they were $20, then they were $24. $28 is going to be the new standard for just the basics, and $34 for the what they consider a deluxe figure, which, God forbid, if they'd give you extra hands or anything like the Marvel figures do. Also, soon the packaging will be completely redone, so you won't even be able to see the figure anymore. It's going to go to the exact same packaging that the Marvel stuff's going to, where it doesn't have a window. And as an inbox collector, I will simply stop buying. And I know everybody, oh, boo-hoo, poor little, Star Wars boy crying. No, I've collected these since 1978. I've been buying a lot. If you can look at my wall behind me, majority of it is Hasbro, whether it's Star Wars, Transformers, G.I. Joe, a whole bunch of licenses that they've had over the years. But I'm not going to buy a box of a figure. Now, there's something completely different. So you can see up here, I've got my Star Wars playsets, and I've got a few different things up there. Or mask. That's fine. I don't mind having those in boxes because generally a lot of those don't even come completely assembled. And so I like the pictures. And I like the way Star Wars used to do pictures, where you had like they went out of their way to make it look good. Like they were the first figure photo people. But I don't want to see that on a figure. If you're going to make this a box and it just has this picture on the front or whatever, what's the difference? Like Vern says, inbox collectors could just print this picture off and slap it on any box, and there you go. Because I'm never going to open this. I don't know why I'm an inbox collector. I just am. That's just what I do. Opening things literally hurts me sometimes. And so they're doing all kinds of repaints. They're raising the price. Distribution is horrible. And they're not making new product. There is no reason there shouldn't be a new wave of Black Series every 2 months. There are 9 movies. Well, 11 if you count Solo and Rogue One. So there are 11 movies, several television series to pull from. And honestly, some of this stuff is just not, how many times can they repaint a clone and put it out and they're going to buy it? You're just going to take the Mandalorian body and repaint it again, and there's another Mandalorian for you to have. Or how many Luke Skywalkers do we really need? Come on, people, do we really need a Mandalorian Luke Skywalker, which is just going to re-release the exact same one we already had, except he'll have a Grogu. Do you really need that in your life? But where is more stuff for the sequel trilogy? Don't start in the comments about the sequel trilogy. I am not a sequel trilogy person. However, there's a lot of great character designs and stuff in that movie, in those 3 films. And I mean, when episode 3 came out and the 5 POA line and beyond, there were like 93 figures out of that series. They got 93 figures out of one movie. When the Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker came out, there are like 6. And most of the stuff that did come out was for Black Series. And I know they got burned. Hasbro got burned pretty hard on the sequel trilogy. So I understand that they're a little squeamish of it. But you could make one figure and put it in a box. You know, why don't we have an old Wedge Antilles figure? You know, that'd be nice. Or, you know, I'm sure there's a ton of other things people could think of. I can't think of any of the characters off the top of my head. I know their designs. I don't know their names. That you could put out for the sequel trilogy or the prequel trilogy. Between episodes 1, 2, and 3, there has to be almost 300 3.75 figures. And we have 30 maybe in the Black Series. And you know, I say this as a vintage collector. I don't buy a lot of Black Series. I do when they look cool, because that's what I want. But I want to be able to see this. Actually, I would prefer for her to have her helmet off so I can see the sculpt on her head as well. But I'm okay with this. It was great. That's why I bought it. I prefer all my figures in this size and in this packaging, because this strikes home for me. Now, if you want to make new packaging and stuff, and you put some thought into it, like this line, that's great too. I'll buy these too. But my heart will always be in 3.75. And with their new packaging to get rid of the plastics, if they get rid of this bubble, and that's another thing Vern was talking about, if they get rid of the bubble, then what am I buying? Are they going to get rid of most of the card and just make this kind of like a this card with a peg hole like right here with the figure strapped to it? How are they going to hold the figure in? You know, for this little piece of plastic, because they think they're going to save the world by not putting plastic on a toy that is already plastic. You can't tell me that they can't figure out how to source out a recycled plastic bubble. This card is already recyclable. So how much of this card stock is recycled? Maybe they should recycle the card stock, recycle the package, and then just make the paper or the figure out of new plastic. How hard could that be? Lego's doing it. Lego is going to switch to a completely like degradable brick soon. They're testing them now for durability and things, but soon you will not be able to buy normal bricks. And that's fine. That's what they want to do. They've figured out the plastic for it. And as long as they function properly, the Lego people are not going to care. Now, as soon as they don't fit properly, or their colors are weird or whatever, then the Lego community, you think the Star Wars people are bad. Oh my goodness. So, you know, the price hikes. Why are we paying $7 to $8 more now for a figure than we were before COVID? You want to save money, put your plant back in Ohio. Then you won't have to ship them from China to San Francisco and then spread them all over the damn place, or San Diego, I would suppose. Put your factory back in Ohio and make your games and your toys there. How much energy does that waste with cargo containers coming all the way over from China constantly? And what happens if something happens to the supply line? We wouldn't have had hardly any issues getting everything from Ohio as we did from getting it from China. So I don't know, because Star Wars is what's called an evergreen license. You will always be able to make stuff for it. You will always be able, it prints money. That's what Star Wars does. It's one of very few licenses that do. You know, your sports licenses from the NFL and stuff like that. That's always money. That's money. Disney is always money. Now Marvel is always money. Marvel wasn't always an evergreen license until Toy Biz really took it over and made it something. It wasn't always an evergreen license. Star Trek is not an evergreen license. Ghostbusters is not. Jurassic Park is to an extent now because it's kind of been around for a while. But if they just stop making Jurassic Park movies, they could still make dinosaurs, but I don't think much else. You know, Voltron is not an evergreen license. Even something like the Muppets is not evergreen. You can't just constantly make stuff for it and people will buy it. Barbie is an evergreen license. Hot Wheels is an evergreen license. But some reason, Hasbro seems to either hate Star Wars because of all of us complaining about stuff like this, or they feel trapped with it, that they had to redo this license because it's their thing and that's what they're known for. It's Kenner. It's Star Wars. If suddenly Mattel or God forbid like McFarlane was making Star Wars stuff, it would be weird. And I don't know if they would keep packaging constant and things like that. But Hasbro seems to be going out of its way. It's not producing enough vintage series figures. I mean, why are there only 4 in every wave, basically? And again, why are we continually stuck on the original trilogy? There are tons of figures from the sequel trilogy that never got a figure. There are tons of things from the prequel trilogy that never got a vintage collection look. You know, it's amazing to me that they don't bother. They also, because of the cost of the vehicles, even vintage collection vehicles are expensive to produce. And I get that. But even, you know, I'm not going to pay $100 for an X-Wing. I'm just not. Those should be $40, maybe $50 at most, because it comes with a figure. There's no reason that X-Wing, which you haven't changed the mold for 20 years, should be $100 because it has a new paint job and comes with a figure, which you, of course, can't get anywhere else. So they make those kind of decisions. I understood the Grogu thing. That's why you see Grogu at every Target, every Walmart has sections and sections of the Grogu stuff too, because they were too far behind the curve on Grogu. Now that could be a Lucasfilm thing. That's another issue Hasbro has to deal with. Now, why don't we have more figures from The Mandalorian, from the Book of Boba Fett? We should have, Obi-Wan comes out this month. In June, we should already have wave 1 of the Obi-Wan figures. They should already be produced. They should be on a box, shipping over here to get out to the stores at Walmart in June. Because you can't trust those people to put stuff out on time. As we saw with the Thor figures and we saw with the Jurassic Park stuff. So why haven't we? Nope, they're going to announce a new set of figures and it'll be more stuff from the original trilogy, which, yes, I love, but there's so much more. And they seem to be missing it. And I don't know if that's a Lucasfilm thing where they're just not going to give costume designs and all that stuff to Hasbro to produce anymore. It's not that when The Force Awakens came out, everybody, suddenly they had all the plot points for The Force Awakens because the toys came out in September and the movie came out in December. It's not like that, and I get some of that, but you have to allow Hasbro to have that stuff or we're going to fall into a pit of we don't have product. So this is already going on longer than I thought it would. So just a stream of thought. So, that's another thing Hasbro has to deal with, and that's out of their control. That's Lucasfilm, that's Disney, who's telling them all this. But it can't be that much Disney, because look at Marvel. Marvel always has their stuff in stores when the movie hits. COVID hurt them a lot. That's what happened with the Black Widow stuff. That's what happened with Shang-Chi. That's what happened with, G.I. Joe and the Rise of Cobra, or no, wait, Snake Eyes, whatever that movie was called. And Doctor Strange is out now, but all their stuff came in too early because the movies got delayed. And I understand that Star Wars wouldn't want, say, Obi-Wan stuff hits the shelves in April, and in May something went wrong and they had to move it to June or July, I mean. Okay, well, we're still going to buy this stuff. So I don't see why we can't get some of that and why Hasbro can't make it. Next is vintage collection. Now, if they're going to start doing that to dump in order to get 3.75 stuff in, I'm all for that because I love 3.75. I would love them to return to a 5 POA series. They thought that having 5 POA hurt the vintage collection and might hurt sales of the Black Series figures. Well, all 3 sat on the shelves just fine since 2015 until they decided to kill 5 POA after the Rise of Skywalker. Well, why? So you could replace it with Mission Fleet that nobody buys and it goes on clearance? And I understand, but I also understand you have to have a kid's version of Star Wars. Parents are not going to buy $30 figures in mass. They will buy $8, $10 figures in mass. They're not going to buy $14 figures in mass. They will buy $10 figures in mass. So you need to go back to 5 POA again, which they already do in the retro collection. I don't know why people say nobody wants 5 POA. Every time they put those retro collections figures out, they sell. Yes, I do want more closer to the vintage collection look. But, I don't see why they can't have those 3. Kids need a gateway into Star Wars. And it's not in the more expensive stuff. It's in the cheaper end. And Mission Fleet is the kids brand at the moment, but it's not selling. Because oddly, the Mission Fleet focuses more on Clone Wars stuff and things instead of original trilogy or sequel trilogy. It's almost a complete Clone Wars collection, which if they did that for a 5 POA or for they sold. Now, I'm not saying you need to dump boxes 24 in a box and put them out. But, you can't just ship a box of 12 of these to a Walmart and think they're not going to sell out. You also need to be smarter about what you're putting in. Lando doesn't sell very well. It is a horrible, horrible thing to say, but African-American figures and female characters don't sell very well. I love Lando. Billy D. Williams is awesome. I've always loved Billy D. Williams. But you don't put 2 Landos in a box. You put 1 Lando in a box and you make him the one people are looking for. You create these female and Black characters as characters you need to get. That's the one in the box you want. You don't put 1 Lobot in a box. You put 1 Lando in a box. And if it's a 3.75, you can do 2, I guess. But even then, I'd put more. If you had more variety, it would be better. So I think it comes down to, I think Hasbro doesn't necessarily, I don't know if they hate Star Wars. I don't think they understand Star Wars anymore. Whenever you watch them do their Star Wars fan days or whatever, those people have no clue what they're talking about. Then you'll watch the Marvel one. Those guys know the characters. They know who they fight. They know what's going on. They tell you, hey, we're reusing this body, but it's got new hands, new head. Here's all its new features and stuff. Wonderful. They don't just repaint a clone and say, there you go. And here, we're begging. But, it is May 2nd that I'm shooting this on. And the store, the Walmarts and stuff around me have still not gotten the Bib Fortuna wave of Black Series figures. We just started getting the wave that has, I'm trying to think of who's all in that wave. Anyway, the wave that actually has the Lando and stuff again. So we're getting a second wave of that, but we've never gotten. I haven't seen the Bib Fortuna wave. I haven't seen the wave with Walrus Man, with the Leia. We're probably about 12 to 14 figures behind in Denver. I don't know why. I don't know where they are. I don't know where they're stuck. I don't know if maybe I'm just missing them, but usually I run into stuff. I go to enough Targets and Walmarts every week that even if I don't buy stuff, I see things. You'll see end caps full of those carbonized figures on the East Coast. Our Targets are getting like a case. Now, we should not have an end cap of those. Nobody should have an end cap of those. That's another thing. A repaint, an exclusive, that is not going to sell that well. Those figures are nice, but do we really need the carbonized stuff at all? It's just another way to repackage things and put it out again, which is what we've done forever. Somebody said that Disney has been exploiting the Star Wars license. I'm like, do you understand how many copies of the Star Wars movies I own as they get put on new media or have new changes or change, from 5 POA to this, to 12-inch figures, to, and, so anyway, off topic. So to sum up here, Vern's got a lot of really good points, and he goes on about their little HasLab stuff. And I'm not going to buy the HasLabs. I can't afford them, honestly. I really, 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 really wanted a sail barge. And until they blew it up, I would love to have had a Razor Crest, but I wouldn't have opened them. And I think things that are that large, I think need to be played with. And, if I had a flag from the G.I. Joe, it would still be sitting in a box. And I've played with a real one, but I would never open it. And I don't know why. I'm broken. I'll do a mental health video someday. But when they did the Rancor, why was that done when it was? When the Rancor was such a big part of the Book of Boba Fett. If they'd have waited and put that out, you could have done it with a Boba Fett, with the Rancor Keeper, with an Ola the Dancer, and maybe a Gamorrean Guard. And I think it would have sold. Because you could have used it if you were an original series collector or if you were a Mandalorian series collector. But they almost sabotaged it themselves. And you notice we haven't been given any other HasLab. There isn't one this year so far for Star Wars. So, I don't know. But tell me what you guys think down in the comments. Please go watch Vern's video. He is much better at this than I am, and he knows how to edit properly, so he doesn't ramble like I do. And, make sure you subscribe to him. Subscribe to me. Please do. Put a like. Put a dislike if you want. Doesn't matter. Either way. But until next time, I'll catch you guys on the flip side.